Hello, everyone. Good morning. Good afternoon. We all come from many different time zones. Today, on behalf of Joanne Lee, our founder and CEO of MediHeroes, I would like to welcome you to our inaugural MediHeroes Go2Market series. Thank you all for taking your time to come. I especially want to highlight the attendance of some of our participants coming from Korea. As you can see, we do have quite a bit of instruction in Korean and in English. A bit of housekeeping here. Please, if you do have questions later, please just post it via the chat box. We are also at the same time running simultaneous translation. And for our Korean participants, you can look out for the interpretation button at the bottom of the Zoom link. So with that, I'd like to come to the webinar proper. Okay. Let me just share my screen. As you can see from the screen here, MediHeroes today is very pleased to have with us external speakers who are based out of Singapore. Today, our topic is Global Biomedical Cluster with a country focus on Singapore. And we have our Singapore-based speakers coming from JTC, a Singapore-linked, government-linked real estate company that is able to talk to you about the Biopolis medical cluster, the MedTech Hub, and Launchpad. I will save the details for Margaret and Ashley to talk about. After them, Dr. Christophe, as well as Sylvia from ClinActis, based out of Singapore, will give you their presentation on strategic approach to clinical trials in Singapore. The program for today is like this. We try to keep it to 1 hour as much as we can. And I will give you a very brief, quick introduction to what MediHeroes is doing with the biomedical clusters program, and then followed by our external speakers. And finally, Ms. Hannah, our general manager, will cover our MediHeroes platform. So MediHeroes is very pleased to be able to come up with this Global Biomedical Clusters program. Why are we doing this? It's because we believe that a lot of the medtech players, biotech players out there are always exploring and looking out to expand overseas. And we have identified many countries, namely Singapore, Germany, USA, India, China, Korea, and Japan as the first few that we are introducing to the market. These countries, with the USA as the exception, the number one, ranked as number one in the world, these other countries are some of the best in their respective fields. And these countries are also some of the best in their respective regions. So we hope that our biomedical clusters program will bring help and knowledge and support our members at MediHeroes and anyone who are very much in the medtech world. The clusters particularly help to connect you to the different elements of the value chain. I think as entrepreneurs, as leaders of your own company, you are always looking at how you can add value to you doing business. So the medical clusters bring you R&D, bring you shared access to advanced facilities, equipment, connections to universities, help you in your acceleration of your innovation, building new competencies, and so on. So our program consists of two parts. One is the webinar, which today we are here to talk about Singapore. Our next program is in Germany. It's about Germany, rather, and it's already set for August the 25th. Following that, just for your info, we have USA, India, and China. As a case of China, we all know that it's still in some kind of a lockdown mode, but we should be opening up in that area soon, and hopefully all this will come to pass according to our plan. The second part of our cluster program is very much an on-site tour program. Hannah will share a bit more details with you later, but Singapore is our inaugural on-site program as well. It is to be done right after the Medica Asia. I believe it's at Marina Bay Sands. After that, we will have a tour program culminating with a networking dinner with champagne networking night. So this is our biomedical cluster in short. Let's come to the meeting proper about Singapore as the biomedical cluster topic for today. As we all know, Singapore is an example of global best practice for innovation clusters. It's ranked as one of the top few in the world, in this case by Biotech Innovation Scorecard. Drawing out of 54 countries, Singapore is ranked second. Interestingly, in terms of its enterprise support, education and workforce, policy and stability, these categories stand out as one of the best. And that's why Singapore, for some reasons, are able to even score better than many of the other Western countries. Later, we will look into how some of the government initiatives are kicking in, help companies like yourself come to Singapore. We are unable to get EDB, Economic Development Board, our local Singapore government agency, to share with you today, but they have advised us to share about the incentive schemes for businesses to come to Singapore. Please take note on the Special Situation Fund for startups. If you qualify for the Pioneer Incentive, that is some added incentives if your technology is at the pioneer status. And then they also have the development and expansion incentives. Also check out the Innovation, R&D, and Capability Development Program. For example, there is a tech pass for entrepreneurs who are very busy traveling, and you have a special pass to come in and out of Singapore. Of course, there are the other research and innovation schemes, training grant, even at the intellectual property, IP area. So we are going to post more details of this onto our chat group on our MediHeroes website. EDB has also advised us to share the business guides. For many of us, when we think about going to a new place, there are 1,001 questions. So setting up your business in Singapore guide is very comprehensive. If you go into the guide, they even have people for you to speak to, consultants for you to speak to, how to set up your company, etc. There's also one guide in red here. It says invest in Singapore. That gives you a good overview. And then, as usual, Singapore is like the springboard to Southeast Asia. There is a guide for a sea of opportunities, understanding Southeast Asia, and so on. Recruitment, talents, etc. More importantly, we encourage our attendees to look specifically at one government agency. It's called the Agency for Science, Technology and Research. A-STAR for short. A-STAR, it consists of many institutes and R&D labs and so on. And in fact, I have lost count, but I know that there are thousands and thousands of PhD holders who are part of this group, and it's amazing. Singapore is renowned for, in terms of PhD per capita, probably more than the United States. But of course, we are a small island nation. So to have that number is quite incredible. So looking at the Division of Health and Medical Technologies, if you play in the space of digital health, data analytics, AI, design and fabrication of medical devices, prototyping, productization of medical technologies, you must go deeper into that Division of Health and Medical Technologies. Honestly, sometimes even us, when we dive into the A-STAR website, because there are so many things inside there, one might get lost. But I hope that, you know, if you need more information, just refer to our chat group on our MediHeroes website. There will be more details posted after this webinar. Within A-STAR, there is this Advanced Remanufacturing and Technology Center. It's called ARTC. And they have recently formed a new organization called MedTech Manufacturing Alliance. It's really a grouping of different parties coming together to help partner with also players like yourself in early co-development. They also have a tripartite arrangement with partners, suppliers, OEM players to go to market. So specifically, if you look at this slide now, A-STAR MedTech Alliance focuses on smart manufacturing. If you play in the space of robotics, machine learning, this is really one area for you to consider. They also have a lot to do with diagnostics and remote monitoring. The point of care diagnostics, as you can see in red there, A-STAR works with innovative companies to bring solutions in developing remote monitoring for chronic care and testing for infectious diseases. They also have the laboratory automation and robotics, going to AR, VR, and robotization processes. So these are the three focus areas for partners overseas to think about any future collaborations or opportunities through A-STAR. One area that they spend a bit of effort in, as they call it, the national priority for Singapore, is aging-related healthcare. I think these days, this is not just in Singapore, but in many other countries, especially the developed countries. And they are looking at collaborating, co-innovating with partners in this space. Home care, robotics, monitoring systems, or age tech related stuff. Finally, for my slides, as you can see, when you think about opportunities working with A-STAR, there are a lot of public and private sector collaboration, such as Health Sciences Authority, which is critical in Singapore. And then you have the private sector partners that is able to come into play. With that, I stop my presentation here. And some of these things that I've just covered are also going to be covered by our other speakers. Before we go to the other speakers, It is MediHeroes' tradition to do a photo taking session at this time. I see that quite a number of you have not really turned on your camera. We would ask very much if you could kindly turn it on and help us just have our photo taking today. For some of you, if that is a privacy issue, please keep your camera closed. So let's see, Hannah.
Thank you, Katie. Then let me count 3. So may I suggest to taking a photo with a double thumbs up this time?
Okay.
If you don't mind.
Okay.
Okay, let me count 3, 2, 1. Cheese.
Cheese.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. So with that, we are very pleased to move on to our next speaker. We have JTC. We have Margaret and Ashley to share with us. Margaret. Yeah.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Katie, for the introduction, the Heroes team, for inviting us today. It's a pleasure for us to be able to present JTC's development at this platform. I'm Margaret from JTC's Biomedical Department. So I market developments, mainly Biopolis to biomedical prospects. So today with me, my colleague, Ashley. She's from the startup department and she oversees Launchpad. So without further ado, I will kick off today's presentation. Next, please. So for those who are not familiar, JTC is a government agency under the Ministry of Trade and Industry. We've been around since 1968. And to meet the objective of growing Singapore's manufacturing landscape and supporting the nation's economic goals, we develop clean, green, and smart estates where industrialists can thrive. But having said that, we are not just a landlord, we are also a partner of growth. We understand that industries are getting more competitive, therefore businesses need greater support than ever. And to help them, we work towards fostering vibrant ecosystems such that businesses can leverage on other players within the ecosystem to advance their interests. Next. Presentation is on JTC's developments that's catered to the biomedical industry. This is an industry that's continued to develop, to deliver strong growth even throughout the pandemic. In 2021, Singapore secured a fixed asset investment commitment of 11.8 billion Sing dollars, and BioMedical Cluster actually accounted for 15% of it. This is testament to Singapore's reputation as a strategic hub and a critical supply chain node for companies to grow and expand. Past year's data also shows a significant increase in research spending for biomedical sciences. Between 2013 to 2018, we see the R&D expenditure of local biotech firms increase 5-fold. And in 2019, the farm bio and medtech segments contributed 4% to Singapore's GDP. We also saw the number of biomedical startups double since 2014 to more than 330 today. This trend is set to continue as the government sets aside 1% of Singapore's GDP from 2021 to 2025, which is equivalent to about 25 billion Sing dollars to research, innovation, and enterprise. And under the initiative, 3.23 billion would be dedicated to R&D in human health and potential. To accommodate growth in this industry, JTC is committed to ensure that there is sufficient supply of infrastructure and buildings for prospects. Next, please. So JTC has catered real estate solutions for different stages of the biomedical value chain. For startups in its infancy, they may look to Launchpad, and it's located in One North as well as the Jurong Innovation District. For companies that's looking to set up research or innovation labs, Biopolis would be the obvious choice. And for companies which are in small and medium scale manufacturing, they can consider MedTech Hub. Lastly, for large-scale biopharma manufacturing, Tuas Biomedical Park would be suitable. But for today's presentation, we will be zooming in on Launchpad, Biopolis, and MedTech Hub. With that, I will now hand over the time to Ashley, who will share a bit more about Launchpad.
Yeah, hi everyone. So I'm Ashley from the startup department. So today I'll be giving you guys a broad overview of the startup ecosystem at Launchpad and how JTC play a role in supporting them. So to start off, I'll just share some of the numbers. So since the official opening of Launchpad at One North, we've grown to be one of the region's most densely packed and dynamic entrepreneurial ecosystem, and we've played host to over 1,300 tech startups. So among these tech startups that we have supported, we have actually groomed around 335 successful startups. And by successful startups, based on Enterprise Singapore's definition, they are a group of startups that have obtained 250,000 in terms of revenue or external funding. So as you can see on the slides, there might be some familiar names on the screen, such as Shopback, 99.co, Igloo Home, and others. So this wouldn't be possible without our 35 enablers and community partners that are housed within Launchpad itself. So what we hope to do here at Launchpad is to be the most preferred startup location globally to seed the next generation of global enterprises. So to do this, we have three key strategies. The first is to offer infrastructure support. Number two would be to work with our partners to provide a holistic suite of support. And finally, to curate a vibrant and diverse ecosystem. So in my next couple of slides, I will zoom into each of these specifically. So firstly, on infrastructure support, Launchpad actually offers affordable plug-and-play spaces to help startups grow and launch their businesses. So currently in Singapore, we have two Launchpad. So one would be located at One North. So as you can see behind my background, this is the Launchpad One North. And we have a second one at Jurong Innovation District. So for these two Launchpad, they are strategically located at these areas so that they are in close proximity to the Institutes of Higher Learning, IHLs. So for example, for One North, they are located very near to the National University of Singapore. And for Jurong Innovation District, they are in very close proximity to the Nanyang Technological University, NTU. So the reason why JTC does this is to encourage industry-academia collaboration and also a chance for a startup to tap on the talent that's accessible within the universities. So in totality, we have around 60,000 square meters of space, and we are playing home to 700 startups and 35 ecosystem partners. So for the spaces that we offer at Launchpad, they typically come in modular units ranging from 20 square meters to 80 square meters, and they can come in either a fitted or non-fitted configurations. So especially for the bare units, the non-fitted ones, they are essentially more popular among startups that require more flexibility in terms of fitting out or renovation. And our fitted units that comes with aircon, lighting, and power, they are essentially more popular amongst the startup that look for a plug-and-play space. They can just bring their chairs and tables and they are good to go. We also have ground level units that have direct access to driveways. So these are typically more popular among our mobility and robotic startups. So other than just providing spaces for operational use, we also encourage our tenants to use Launchpad as a playground for them to test fit their innovative technologies or even validate some of their business concepts. So as you can see on the screen, these are the various test beds that we have supported. And I think the more notable one that you guys might have heard of would be the Shipping Container Hotel. So they actually placed their first two container hotels at Launchpad at One North. So although it's actually an industrial area, the founder actually shared with us that the occupancy rate is actually quite high at around 80+%. And next on to holistic suite of support that we offer to our startups. We work very closely with a group of important stakeholders such as the incubators, our venture capitalists, and service providers to provide business support and financing opportunities. So most of them here are actually private-led. So for example, you can see on screen, we have Trendline Medicals, which is a biomedical incubator from Israel. We also have some that are institutional backed, such as NUS Enterprise and Pollinate. And Pollinate, and they are actually led by the Singapore Poly, Temasek Poly, and Ngee Ann Polytechnic. And we also have some that are corporate links, such as InnoSparks, which is a corporate incubator by SD Engineering. So for the team, we also acknowledge that access to talent pool might be an issue faced by many of the startups. So we work with one of our community partners, the Action Community for Entrepreneurship ACE, to organize career fairs so that it can act as a platform for our startups to market themselves to any talents. So finally, for the team, we work very hard to curate a vibrant and diverse startup ecosystem. So essentially for the Launchpad community members, they are able to connect with like-minded individuals working on disruptive technologies from different sectors and at different maturity stages. So for us, we are actually industry agnostic. You can see on the screen, we support a wide range of startups from various sectors. So we support startups from agri-tech, biomed, and even fintech. So For startups to come into Launchpad, there's a set of eligibility criteria that they will have to meet, which is listed on the screen. So first off, they must be a Singapore-based company, less than 7 years old, not a subsidiary of another company. And also for fundraising, it should not be beyond Series A. And of course, the proposed usage and activities within the space should comply to our industrial guidelines, meaning to say more than 60% of the space should be focusing on R&D, software and hardware development, and the other 40% can be on ancillary usage to create meeting points or even pantry. Launchpad also offer many platforms to encourage the members to interact, exchange ideas, and even explore collaboration or potential collaboration with one another. So we do offer common facilities such as Timber Plus, which is actually a food place where people usually go over there to grab their lunch, and at night they can head over there to grab a drink or even listen to the live band. We also do have basketball court and futsal court for entertainment, and our tenants are also free to book the event hall or meeting rooms should they have any events. So for the team, we also do organize events such as career fairs, pitching sessions, or even fireside chats. So in recent times, back in May, we actually had our first large-scale physical event where we saw over 1,000 participants coming to Launchpad at One North to look at the showcase that's set up by our startups. So essentially, these are the kind of support that we offer to the startup ecosystem. And I'll now pass the time to Margaret to share more on Biopolis.
Thank you, Ashley. So let me move on with an introduction to Biopolis. Next, please. Okay, so the vision for Biopolis is really to be a world-class purpose-built biomedical research hub dedicated to blue sky and translational research. This is achieved through 3 key pillars of talent, collaboration, and tenant experience, which I'll elaborate on later. Next. Okay. We'll first take a look at how Biopolis has evolved over the years. JTC developed phase 1 in 2003, and this comprised of 7 buildings anchored by a key tenant, A*STAR, which is Singapore's National R&D Agency in Science and Technology. A*STAR's presence, coupled with the infrastructural provisions, actually attracted many other companies to Biopolis as well. And with the strong space demand, the private sector took over with the development of the subsequent phases. Phase 2 came up in 2006, adding 37,000 square meters into the supply. Phase 3 was built in 2010, contributing another 41,000 square meters of business park space. In 2013, which marked the 10th year anniversary of Biopolis, Phase 4, which is Procter & Gamble's Innovation Center, and Phase 5, a building named Nucleus, also was ready. So across the 5 phases and 13 buildings today, the overall occupancy is actually very healthy. It hovers above 90%. And with that, it brings us to what's next, which will be Phase 6. And it's currently under construction and expected to complete in end 2023 or early 2024. Next, please. So Phase 6, or Elementum as it's called, it has a floor area of 41,000 square meters. And this includes 2,000 square meters of fitted out lab space. It's meant to really cater to, maybe Launchpad startup graduates looking for small and ready modular lab units, or companies that's just looking to compress their timeline to become operational. So these fittings actually include a vinyl flooring, lab benches, and workplace furniture. So it's really more plug and play for the company to come in. The development will also come with 6,000 square meters of office, retail, F&B space, as well as communal spaces like a children's play area, an outdoor exercise corner, and a garden. Is meant to inject in vibrancy and to allow for more community building activities. Another plus point about the project is its accessibility. Because it's next to the rail corridor, which is a continuous green ecological corridor, it provides seamless connections between the One North Research District and the adjacent residential areas, as well as Buona Vista MRT station. MRT is basically one of our main transportation modes here. Okay, so we've mentioned earlier that the success of Biopolis is due to 3 pillars. The first one is on the ready access to a talent pool. Because of Biopolis location, there is a convenient access for companies to source for talent, be it from your nearby research institutes, biomedical startups, or your institutes of higher learning. And there's also a very large catchment from nearby residences. The second pillar is on collaboration. So I think just now Katie did share a slide on this. I will elaborate a bit more. So Biopolis was originally envisioned to target the pharmaceuticals and biologics sector. And over the years, because of its reputation as an established R&D hub, we started to see the tenant mix being diversified to keep up with the fast-growing segments within Asia Pacific. And this includes diagnostics, personal care, and food and nutrition. With over 50 leading companies and 6,000 employees across the public and private sectors, there is a robust ecosystem for public-private collaborations. The tenant profile in Biopolis, it comprises public agencies, most notably A*STAR, and private companies that range from our homegrown startups such as Multiply and Merexus to large enterprises like Abbott Nutrition, Bruker, and Illumina. Next, please. Okay, so just to elaborate and illustrate with some examples of research collaborations and breakthroughs, most of them actually involve A*STAR. So in 2016, A*STAR entered into a research collaboration agreement with MSD, otherwise known as Merck, a global pharmaceutical company, to study the advancement of peptide therapeutics. And after WHO declared Zika virus as a public health emergency of international concern, A*STAR worked with our National Environment Agency and Tan Tock Seng Hospital to develop a diagnostic kit to detect Zika, dengue, and the chikungunya virus. More recently, A*STAR worked with Merexus, a homegrown local startup, to develop and produce Singapore's first approved COVID-19 PCR test kit. Merexus went on to deploy over 5 million tests to 45 countries. Lastly, they have worked with Chugai Pharma Body. This is a member of the Roche Group, to look at a potential therapeutic antibody against COVID-19. So these are really just examples to show that with the proximity with A*STAR, it actually enables a lot of such collaborations to thrive. So the third and final pillar is on tenant experience, and this is enhanced through amenities like F&B options, shared business facilities, and proximity to A*STAR's Research Support Center. So the A*STAR Research Support Center is actually managing Singapore's largest e-commerce portal for laboratory consumables or scientific services. And being close to the RSC has actually given companies a lot of help when they need on-demand services. So with that, this is the end of the sharing for Biopolis. We will now have a look at MedTech Hub. So MedTech Hub was completed in 2014. This is a multi-tenanted building for MedTech manufacturing and supporting activities. It's a 9-story building that's strategically located at Jalan Tukang. So this location is actually quite close to the residential estates, as well as the Nanyang Technological University and transport nodes like Boon Lay MRT and the Expressway. So it enables manpower recruitment and efficient goods flow. The building comprises of 38,000 square meters of industrial space and has shared facilities like meeting rooms, a canteen, and a recreational area for tenants to just unwind and relax. Next. So in line with the specialized nature, because MedTech Hub is meant to cater to the medical technology industry, there were actually a few design considerations behind it. So one, the floor plates actually range from 150 all the way up to 4,320 square meters. It's to cater to companies with different manufacturing scales. The spaces, while they come in core and shell state, they actually have provisions that will enable both wet and dry laboratory setup, because there would be floor traps, access to exhaust risers, and the floor to ceiling height is also quite high at about 6 meters. So even if you are to fit out, it's going to be sufficient for you to house all your equipment. Another feature that came about after industry consultation was actually the segregated pathways for pedestrian and product flow, as well as a separate loading bay for clean and general goods. This is meant to reduce any concerns of cross-contamination. So you can see on the diagram, the arrows in red represents pedestrian movement. It's more along the front of the building, and the back of the building is where the goods flow would be, and it connects to a corridor that is really meant for goods to be transported. So it wouldn't be linked to the passenger lift lobby. There won't be cases where you all would have to cross paths. So lastly, there is a large warehouse unit. It's intended for a third-party logistics player to supplement the ecosystem. Next. So as you can see here, the MedTech Hub community consists of biotech companies, companies dealing with diagnostics, medical disposables, coatings, wearables, and implantables. All of them are actually related or serving the biomedical industry, which demands a clean environment. And it's because of this unique tenant profile, companies are actually assured that their neighbors' activities will not involve any pollutive usages that might compromise their operations. Companies have also been able to leverage on other tenants' expertise. So for example, when we look at AQS Labs, they are a MedTech regulatory consultant and a training service provider. So they are able to provide guidance to MedTech companies regarding quality and regulatory compliance for product submissions to authorities. And lastly, by co-locating with companies with similar traits, there were cost savings that were realized by our tenants through demand aggregation for common services. And it really goes down to basics such as waste disposal, and it can help them realize cost savings of about 10% through economies of scale. So I think with that, this is generally reasons why MedTech Hub is really the place to be for biomedical manufacturing. Yeah. So this is all for today's presentation. It's really meant to give an overview into the types of developments that we have under JTC's portfolio for the biomedical sector. We hope it has given you some insights, and should you decide to venture to Singapore, this may be options that you can consider. Are there any questions?
Yeah, we are still okay with our time, so please feel free to ask any questions you may have for JTC. Or if you like, you can always post your questions on the chat. I just want to share something actually. It's so interesting. Joanne Lee, our CEO and founder, was in Singapore, and we went to check out Launchpad, Block 71. And this was like mid-April before we fully opened up in Singapore. And to our amazement, we went for lunch, and that place was jam-packed with young people. We had to wait to get a table. We had to wait to buy our food. It is amazing that with certain COVID restrictions, there was so much energy and intensity. And I think it speaks very well for the ecosystem that the Launchpad and Biopolis is incredible. Yeah. So any questions? Let me see if no questions, then we will proceed. I just like to remind everyone that we do have our chat group that is on our MediHeroes website. So you are also feel free to go to our website and post any questions that you may have. We'll try our best to match and follow up and give you the correct answers or link you up with the necessary connections. Okay, thank you. So with that, it's my pleasure to introduce now Dr. Christophe and Sylvia to make their presentation.
Hi everyone, my name is Sylvia, and I'm the clinical team lead with ClinActis Private Limited, which is a regional CRO that is based in Singapore. With me today, I also have Dr. Christophe Tournerie, which is the CEO and founder of ClinActis. So today I'll be presenting on the strategic approach to clinical trials in Singapore. Okay, so let me start. Okay. So I'll be talking a little bit about the regulatory authority in Singapore, the ethics committee, the clinical sites, as well as the pros and cons of choosing Singapore to conduct clinical trials. Our regulatory authority in Singapore is the Health Sciences Authority, or HSA for short. They regulate the conduct of clinical trials of therapeutic products and Class 2 cell tissue and gene therapy products under the health products clinical trial regulations. And for medicinal products, it is under the medicines clinical trial regulations. The classification of the IP is very important because it directly affects the submission routes that we will have to submit again under to HSA. So we have 3 submission routes. The first one would be the clinical trial authorization, or the CTAs, and this would be for clinical trials for therapeutic products and Class 2 cell tissue and gene therapy products. For locally registered therapeutic products and Class 2 CT-GTPs that are used in accordance to the local approved label, we will only need to have a clinical trial notification. And for medicinal products, we would have to apply for a clinical trial certificate, or a CTC for short. So how do you determine the product classification? For therapeutic products, it would be any chemical or botanical element, naturally occurring chemical or botanical material, or any chemical product that is obtained by chemical change or synthesis. It can also be any metabolite from a microorganism, any macromolecule extracted from an organism, or any substance derived from a biological system. So basically, most of your standard drugs, they will fall under a therapeutic product. For the cell, tissue, and gene therapy product, it is any viable or non-viable human cells or tissues, any viable animal cells or tissues, or any recombinant nucleic acid, where the effect of the recombinant nucleic acid relates directly to the recombinant nucleic acid sequence that it contains, or it relates to the product of the genetic expression of its sequence. So for medicinal products, it would be your Chinese medicines, your traditional medicines, your homeopathic medicines, your quasi-medical products, any medication oils or balms, or your medicinal products that are not subject to the licensing requirements. Okay. So next we'll move on to the regulatory roadmaps for clinical trials for the CTA and the CTN. For CTA, it can be done in concurrence with the IRB submissions. Whereas for the CTN, because it only takes a shorter time for the notification to be accepted, and the IRB approval actually needs to be part of the submission package. So it can only be submitted after you have gotten your IRB approval. After the site initiation, during the study conduct, the documents that need to be submitted will be the same across all three submission routes. So which would be your substantial amendments, your serious breaches, your urgent safety measures, the trial status reports, which needs to be submitted every 6 months, any SUSAs or any updates to the IB or any new safety information, if your trial is suspended, terminated, or completion, or any other submissions, which would be your letters to the investigators or any memorandums that directly affects the conduct of the trial. So 1 year after the study closure, you will also need to submit a final clinical study report to HSA. Okay. So for CTC, the submission roadmap is the same as the CTA, so I'll not go through this. Okay. Processing timelines for CTA will be 30 days for therapeutic products. If it is phase 1 clinical trials that is solely to evaluate bioequivalence, bioactivity, availability, food effect, or drug-drug interaction, it will only take 15 working days. And if it is a class 2 CT-GTPs, it will need 60 working days. So for CTN, it's much shorter because it is locally registered products that is used in accordance to the local approved labels. We only need 5 working days. And for the CTC, similarly, we need 30 working days. So this clock work will stop if the once the HSA issue any queries, okay, and after you reply to the queries, the clock work will resume. But you have to take into consideration 10 working days for your responses to be taken into consideration as well. Okay. So next we'll move on to the trials that are not regulated under HSA. So this will be your observational trials, okay, your clinical trials of medical devices, and your class 1 cell tissue and gene therapy product trials. So these trials, although they are not regulated under HSA, but they will require ethics committee approval, and they need to comply with the Human Biomedical Research Act. Okay. So next we'll move on to the ethics committee. We do not have a country centralized IRB in Singapore, but our IRBs, they are more cluster-based IRBs. So for institutes that are under the SingHealth group, they will be submitted under the Centralized Institutional Review Board, or CIRB for short. For institutes and affiliates under the National Healthcare Group, they need to be submitted to the Domain-Specific Review Board, or DSRB for short. And for any private institutes, like your private hospitals, or if there are clinics that wants to do clinical trials, they can all submit over to the Parkway Independent Ethics Committee, or PIEC for short. Okay, so for processing timeline, the full board review meetings, they are held once every month, except December. There's no meetings in December. And this full board review meeting would usually be 3 weeks after the submission deadline. The meeting dates for CIRB and DSRB and PIEC, they are all available on their websites. For CIRB, the submission deadline is on the first working day of the month, and then for DSRB is on the 15th of each month. For PIEC, the submission deadlines are different for each month, so it's also posted on their website. And the approvals, they are usually obtained about 6 to 8 weeks after the submission, assuming that there is one round of queries. Okay. So from 1st of July 2014, any research applications that's involving both SingHealth and National Healthcare Group, they can be submitted to one IRB, and the other IRB will actually recognize the approvals from the approving IRB. Okay, so these cross-cluster submission applications, it will depend on the cluster which the overall PI is in. So if the PI is in an institute that is under the CIRB and under SingHealth, it will submit over to CIRB. And if the overall PI is in a hospital that is under the National Healthcare Group, then this application will go over to DSRB. For PIEC, they do not fall into this mutual recognition arrangement, so it will need to be submitted separately. Okay. So next we move on to the clinical sites. For SingHealth, all these hospitals over here, or these sites over here, they all do clinical trials. Okay, so we have a phase 1 research unit under SingHealth, which is the SingHealth IMU. And then we have 4 general hospitals as well, which is Singapore General Hospital, which is the biggest, one of the 2 biggest hospitals in Singapore. Changi General Hospital, KK Women's and Children's Hospital, which a lot of pediatric trials are done over there. And we have Sengkang General Hospital. We also have a lot of specialty centers that are specific to certain indications. So the National Cancer Center, which deals with a lot of oncology trials, the National Heart Center, which do a lot of cardiology trials, National Neuroscience Institute, the National, Singapore Eye Research Institute, and the National Dental Research Institute Singapore. For polyclinics, we also do clinical trials, which are more of your general practitioner trials. Okay, so next we move on to the National Healthcare Group. So I will go, pick out a few of the institutes that are more relevant to clinical trials. This would be Tan Tock Seng Hospital, which is the 3rd biggest hospital in Singapore. We have the National Skin Center, which a lot of dermatology trials will go over there. We have the Koh Teck Puat Hospital, KTPH, which is also one of the new hospitals that does clinical trials. For the affiliates, we have National University Hospitals, which is also one of the 2 biggest hospitals in Singapore. We have Ng Ting Fong General Hospital, NTFGH, which also do clinical trials. Okay. So next, I'll move on to the pros and cons of choosing Singapore as to do clinical trials. So let's start with the pros. Our study documents, it does not need to be translated. So on all our applications for HSA to the ethics committee, as well as our emails, they are all in English, and so none of them needs to be translated. Only patient-facing materials such as pamphlets and the informed consent forms need to be translated into the local language. In Singapore, our local language would be Malay, simplified Chinese, and Tamil. Okay. But let's say if you are only recruiting English-speaking patients, then we do not need to translate these materials as well. Okay. So our sites in Singapore, they are very experienced in global multi-center clinical trials, and they're very developed in terms of their infrastructure, in terms of regulatory setup, medical care, and technology. We have a lot of sites that are very specialized in the indications, as we mentioned just now. So we have IMU that is for phase 1 trials. Except for SingHealth IMU, NUH also have their own IMU as well. So, and TTSH, Tan Tock Seng Hospital, they have their phase 1 trials as well. So we have kind of like 3 centers for phase 1 trials. And for oncology trials, we have the National Cancer Center Singapore, which have a lot of experience in doing oncology trials. So each center also have got their own clinical trial research unit, which have got a pool of study coordinators that can be assigned to the trials. And these study coordinators, even in the institutes, they have their own indications that they are specialized in. So even if it is in a general hospital, you would have teams that are doing, say, diabetic trials, or if they are doing cancer trials, oncology trials. The startup process is very fast. From the time of the submissions all the way to the SIV date, we only need 4 to 6 months. And we have a centralized healthcare system with high quality facilities and investigators. And because our healthcare systems, they are only in clusters. So basically, even if the patient goes to another hospital, the investigators are able to view their medical records online. And so that makes it a lot easier and a lot less prone to having data that is not captured. Our data that we develop are very high quality and international standard data that are accepted by FDA and the EMEA. And our government is investing a lot on and building local and regional clinical research networks. So with the pros, there will come the cons. We are a very small nation, as everyone knows. We only have a very low population of 6 million people. And because of the the good points in Singapore, there's a lot of high number of competing trials that is ongoing in Singapore. And also because we have only very limited sites, we usually can only provide 2 to 3 sites per study instead of bigger countries where you have a lot of sites. And private institutes, we do not perform clinical trials usually, except for oncology trials. So that kind of further limits our sites that we can choose from as well. Okay, but even though with all these cons, I will still say that Singapore is a very good place to choose to do clinical trials. And with that, that brings me to the end of my presentation. Are there any questions?
Okay. Questions? Please feel free to ask if you have any questions. If not, there's one that came online, and I shall ask this. What are the challenges that MedTech startups face in Singapore? Regulations, certifications. I think this is something perhaps ClinActis can answer as well, right? Yeah. I repeat, what are the challenges that MedTech startups face in Singapore in relation to regulations, certifications?
Well, in terms of clinical trials, there's no difference, between medtech startups in Singapore or any big pharma companies. Well, the only thing might be if it is like medtech startups that is dealing with cell, tissue, and gene therapy products. You will need to have your IP developed in GMP certified facilities, and also have the CMC that is available, and that might be a little bit more kind of like HSA might pick a little bit more on that, rather than if you are a big pharma, which you already have got a lot of experience in producing drugs in GMP facilities and producing CMCs. Yeah.
Also, we can add the regulatory authorities in Singapore. They are very experienced with any type of product. They have regulation in place. They have regulator officers that understand very well all these technologies, and they are very open with consultation. So it's also an opportunity for a startup also to consult, to share their research with the regulatory authorities, to give them some directions and support for their product.
Okay, great. Thank you for that answer. Is there any other questions? Okay, if not, thank you, ClinActis, for your presentation. In fact, I want to acknowledge Across Global Alliance, our partner here, for recommending ClinActis to be our speaker for today. Thank you. Right now, it's my pleasure to introduce our internal Ms. Hannah, our General Manager, to give you a glimpse of MediHeroes business and the upcoming program.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction, Katie. Let me share my screen. Okay. Hi everyone. My name is Hannah Gang, General Manager of MediHeroes. So I'm so pleased to invite you all here today. So all of you have been going through the whole session without break. So I will get to the point straight away. So yeah, MediHeroes is a cross-border B2B platform. I assume that everybody will ask question, what does vertical platform means? So here's the answer. So vertical B2B platform means that it includes the whole stakeholders in the medtech industry value chain. So which includes not only the manufacturers, distributors and buyers, but also the service providers such as CROs and regulatory affairs and digital startups who doesn't really have a physical products to show. So actually it is true that there's no existing vertical B2B platform in the medtech market, entering the all players in the one single platform. So yeah, well, actually, when I go out for a meeting with clients and joining the exhibitions, many people ask me that, what is the key strength of our MediHeroes compared to the dominant B2B market players like Alibaba or Amazon's? And the answer is really simple. So medical products are not commodities like pens or t-shirts. So you cannot go out and buy them in the shopping mall, right? So Amazon and Alibaba don't provide the essential information such as clinical evidence and the quality certifications like FDA or CEs, and even the business licenses, which are the critical information for buyers and sellers to find reliable partners. But MediHeroes, we do have. So MediHeroes platform went live on April 15, and we have been running a series of events for our partners and customers. Yeah, if anyone who found me in the group photo within 3 seconds, you are very observant. Yeah, here, that's me and Joanne. Yeah, we run the series of events such as Cellular Economy in April, and we also joined the India Medical Fair and the Future for Health Conference for the pitch in May. And we really got a really huge attention from Indian customers a lot. So it's been almost 3 months since we launched the platform. So we are offering a special 90 free trials to all of the attendees today. So here's the promo code that for you to enjoy our platform within with just $100 per year. So you can redeem this promo code after 90 days free trial is over. And Katie mentioned earlier that I'd like to tell you about our community chat. I believe that 1 hour session is never enough for you to digest and get to know about the Singapore market in depth. So we've created a Singapore go-to-market webinar group chat for all of the attendees to join and network. So you don't need to expose your personal information and just join and keep in touch with people in this community chat. Yeah, here, let me have 3 minutes to introduce our go-to-market series. We are planning to run a series of events throughout this whole year. So following the Singapore event today, we will have a webinar for Germany. On August 25th, 4 p.m. by Korean time, our speaker, Dr. Gregor Kemper from GTAI, Germany Trade and Investment, will give a presentation. So mostly he will overview the medical technology and biotechnology clusters with each focus area, and also explain its support for international pharma, biotech and medtech companies seeking to set up an operation in Germany. So following our webinars, we will go to the Singapore on September 2nd during a medical fair exhibition. And also we are going to visit one of the well-known biomedical clusters, such as Biopolis, Launchpad, MedTech Hub, and etc. And after the tour, we will have a wonderful networking sessions all together. So I'm sure that it will be a good chance for all of you to look through the Singapore market thoroughly. Yeah, and following the Singapore Visit and Meet tour, and we will go Germany in November. The specific dates and the places are not decided, but I assume that it will be right after the Medica exhibition in Düsseldorf. So you can hear all this detailed information in our webinar in August 25th. Yeah, that's it for my presentation today. So thank you again for joining the go-to-market webinar today, and hope to meet you again in our upcoming events. So my colleague Ashley will share the registration link on the chat box. So please make sure to sign up today. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
If there's anyone who has a question, just please let me know.
Yeah. So with that, I think we will call this meeting to an end.
Yeah.
If there's any more questions, any more queries, just feel free to go to our chat box on our website. So okay. That's it. Thank you so much, everyone. We'd like to thank the speakers, and most of all, thank you all for taking your time in attending this session. Thank you.